Hey, Gary's Gulch, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how liquidity, how that boring cash you have sitting on the sideline is your superpower for your business and for yourself personally. Here's a question. Have you ever heard cash is trash? What do they mean by that? And do you believe that? Does that make sense where you are today with your situation in your family, your business, your real estate? Does it work for your situation? Let's take a look and find out. So liquidity is the food for the racehorse. And what I mean by that is you or your business or however you personally produce something that you're in control of, that you produce the income for your family. It's the cash flow, it's the wealth. You're generating all of that by adding value to the world. You're producing a product or you're producing services, and your efforts and those efforts of your team are what are causing everything to happen for your family, certainly for you yourself, and potentially for generations to come. That's the racehorse. And so many people get distracted from the racehorse. They have money coming in consistently because they got the business up and running, or maybe they had a great rental property that's never had problems for them, and that thing is just cash flowing in a great location, right? Did a good job or got lucky with where they set up their portfolio. So whether it's the business or portfolio, they're running really nicely now, and you get bored and you get excited by the shiny object syndrome. You're starting to think, maybe I should catch up with some of the Bitcoin or the altcoins, or maybe NVIDIA, or invest in my buddy's business, or get involved in a syndication or something. So you're starting to push the money outside of where the racehorse operates, right? You're no longer focused on buying food for the racehorse, how to, get that coach to help, put the racehorse at an even higher level. Business planning, business strategy, succession planning, all this stuff that you could be doing to help out the racehorse, but you get a bit distracted. You get caught up in the day trading vibe, and you want to go play at the casino. And I totally get it. I get it. I've been there. I was day trading during the .com crash, and I go to the casinos. I think it's fun, but it is not where you put the money that is really the fundamental cash flow, actual liquidity, and generating the cash flow. So what you want to do is you want to buy food for the racehorse, right? You want to make sure that you got plenty of reserves for those bad times where you can't get the food that you need, where the racehorse is having kind of a slump and it's not winning the cash flow for you. You need a reserve. Why? Well, because the true racehorse is right here. It's you, right? And it's whoever created this machine. If it happens to be your parents' business and they were the mastermind that created it and they're still around and you're struggling, then go buy some food for that racehorse. Take them on a vacation and spend some time picking their brain, right? So somehow figure out how to feed the racehorse that keeps you going. Most companies, when we get in times of recession, will cut back on marketing and advertising. You should turn it the other way. Find out what is really needed and what truly works and go that direction. Here's a statistic that backs that up. More than half of the wealth of the Fortune 500 right now were born during the depths of a recession or the Great Depression. Seem crazy? Well, here's a list of the 50 biggest. United Health Group, Ford, General Motors, Microsoft, UPS, Bank of America, Valero Energy, Target, Lockheed Martin, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, Allstate, Nationwide. I think you're getting the idea, right? So companies who were liquid enough and had the mindset to understand that there is a challenge that needs to be overcome to turn around our country. There is a drastic need out there, and my company can solve it. That's the position you want to be. You don't want to be fighting complete loss of your own company at the time when you're at the point where you need to be expanding. This is where all the hay is made. When everybody has a massive challenge and you have a solution to the challenge. You make the most money when you solve challenges for other people. Okay, I'm sure you've heard this one. The Chinese symbol for crisis and opportunity are the same symbol. America loves that one. Gary Pinkerton loves that one. The glass, two sides of the coin. The glass is half full or half empty. It depends, right? I'm eternally an optimist. I'm trying to become a realist, but I'm eternally an optimist. And there's some challenges. Admiral Stockdale famously said that the people who had the worst time surviving in the Japanese war camps were the pessimists. They had nothing to look forward to. And the next, though, was the optimists. And then after that, the realists, people who could look at their situation and understand where they are. Optimism will get you through things with hope, but you got to see some results on that hope. or you have to have a very strong connection with your maker. So I'm working on the optimism and balance with that and realism. But being an optimist, I love the quote that challenge and opportunity are the same symbol. Turns out Wikipedia doesn't agree with that. It says that they're not the same symbol, and it gets into this technical difference between the two. I don't think we in America really care, because we understand the value of optimistically looking at your business and looking for opportunities, not focusing on all of the challenges and how bad things are going. Some other challenge and opportunity quotes that I love. Every challenge, every adversity contains within it the seeds of opportunity and growth. That's the great Roy Bennett, a predecessor in the self-development, personal development world. Here's another great one. Effective people are not problem-minded. They're opportunity-minded. They feed opportunities and starve the problems. And that's the great Stephen R. Covey. So plenty of signals out there that we need to focus on the opportunities and be ready to leap when the opportunities are out there. That is our great opportunity. Everyone thinks that, hey, the business is going great. I'm cash flowing like crazy. The economy's awesome. I got more customers than I can handle. Having to hire people. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. We're on the easy street. That's not the time where you get lazy and let down your guard, because that's when you get bitten. You need to have the liquidity. You need to be constantly looking at how is the market trending. Are we heading up compared to our competitors? Are we in an industry that it has an enduring value, or are we in something that's going the way of the dodo bird? You need to keep going and focusing on that constantly. Keep a little bit of stress associated with the business and how it's headed, not just getting excited and complacent and falling apart, blindsided by those companies that are there ready to reinvent and change how things are done in the industry, right? Every new idea, every wild industry changing idea was nuts when it was first introduced, but they turn out to be incredible. So how do you do that? How do you stay focused? How do you prepare yourself for the changes that are coming? How do you turn a challenge like the Great Depression into an opportunity that all these other companies saw? Well, one huge way is to make sure you have adequate food for the racehorse and you have a great mindset. So food for the racehorse is clearly actual nutrition for yourself and your family, but it's also being able to stay in a good mindset, which means that you don't have the worries that you're going to become homeless, that you're going to lose the business, that you're going to lose the real estate and the rental properties. You have sufficient capital and resources to be able to get past something like that. The big thing is the emergency fund and reserve fund, right? So what I'm saying is that if you lose millions of dollars in syndications, or if you can't rent the properties at more than 60% of what you thought you were going to rent them at, you have a couple of hurricanes that come through. Like I'm speaking about my situation, right? Like, how do I maintain optimism there? You do so by having adequate reserves. And I've told this story before, but in the great COVID period, when the mayors of all the cities in March or April timeframe are standing in front of cameras telling all of my renters not to pay their rent because they know they're hurting and they won't be evicted. Well, how did we survive that? How did I maintain a good mindset to be able to help my customers in this financial wealth strategy business? Well, I was able to do it because I had a ton of liquidity. And I've also admitted in previous stories that I didn't start out that period with as much liquidity as I should have had. I was on the 5 to 8% liquidity of net worth, and I should have been far higher than that. But thankfully, a syndication I had just invested in had to give the money back because they couldn't close on the loan. The bank would not give loans. And that put me above 15 to 20% of liquidity, and I've not looked back from there, and I have increased my percentage as I go along. You'll hear people talk about building a war chest, right? So why would you have it above about 15%? That's a lot of your net worth. Why would you have it higher than that? Because the war chest is having relationships and having actual resources, money, to be able to go seize an opportunity. When there's blood in the streets, invest when there's blood in the streets is what Warren Buffett says. Well, how do you do that? You got to have liquidity. You can't be fully invested in your business, your real estate, and the markets, and have liquidity to be able to go at the next thing. So build the war chest when the times are good so that you survive when the times are not. And not only that, you thrive during those periods. You be the guy who starts the company that is needed at that moment to be able to solve people's problems around you. And how hard is that to figure out how to solve problems? I don't think it's hard. You just look around and see what's needed the most, and you provide that resource to your neighbors, your community, or worldwide if that's how you're operating. So that emergency fund, the reserves for your business and your properties, that stuff sits in the foundational tier one bottom layer, the thing that holds all of your investments upright of the hierarchy of wealth. And if you're a little behind on that, you can go back and look at previous podcasts or just reach out to me at gary@garypinkerton.com. I'll send you a book, a resource to a bunch of videos. And if it's resonating with you, we can get you signed up for our private client portal, which has a ton of those resources and many additional to help you, your family, and your business to thrive. And as I mentioned, we recommend 15 to 40% of net worth. And yes, that is a lot. And I'm vulnerable enough to say that I didn't believe in that number. I didn't buy in fully to that large number of 15, maybe 30 to 40% until it almost bit me. And then I realized the value of it. And many of my clients have done the same thing. Why do people resist putting 15% of their money in cash? Why would they refuse to do that? Where did the phrase "cash is trash" come from? Well, it was Ray Dalio in 2000, and then he came out a couple years later and said, "Cash is not trash. Sit in cash right now." So he's talking about when you're sitting at the table and playing, or when you're passing on around, right? He's just talking simply about when do you put your money down to play a game of poker or blackjack, when you put your chips on there and play the crapjack or the craps table. It's when the odds are in your favor, right? So he's talking about putting money in and out of the markets, and when you should sit on the sideline, when you should be in there. That's what he's talking about with cash is trash. But when you look at this holistically, you can't just look at return on a specific investment. You need to look at return on your personal wealth. Oh gosh, now what am I talking about, right? So this is kind of a new concept for many people. I've talked about how the liquidity, the cash, the money sitting in your family banking system or your high cash value whole life insurance policy is money to pull you out of a bind. It's food on reserve for the racehorse, which is your business, your real estate, yourself, your family, so that you can maintain a clear mind and keep pushing forward, solving people's problems when the greatest opportunity out there is for you, which is during recessions, depressions, things like that. So I've often talked about how this asset helps solve that challenge of people being resistant to hold money on the sidelines. Because again, this whole feeling I've heard forever that cash is trash, that I'm losing out, right? So the two biggest reasons that people hesitate or limit the amount of cash they have in sitting around, and it's definitely why I was doing it as well, is because fear of missing out, that everybody else is getting wealthy in the markets right now, hitting new highs. And then it is inflation, right? I'm losing out to inflation. So the reason that your family banking system is a solution to this, and I have lots of data and statistics on this now from the tens of thousands of hours we've had with thousands of clients at Paradigm Life. And I can confidently tell you that when you have an environment that is more like 8% at a high yield savings vehicle, which is how the family banking system or the whole life insurance designed to be high cash value represents itself out there in the marketplace with other options. Why 8%? Well, if you make 8% at a Chase or Wells Fargo high yield savings vehicle, maybe it's at the Allied Bank online account, you're making 8% there, and then you pay a couple of percent. If you're in the 24% tax bracket, you'll pay that 8 will turn into 6, right? But that whole life insurance family banking system also provides life insurance death benefit, which is the ultimate safety vehicle, protection vehicle, in case you not only are running out of money or your business is challenged, but you die in some situation. How does your family pick up the pieces and move forward from that? That's the life insurance, right? So you need that because you're protecting the number one asset, which is, again, the racehorse. And it's coming up with the ideas, putting forth the effort, adding value to others, and getting paid for it through your business, through your real estate, or personally through a W-2. So if you can achieve the equivalent of 8%, 2% for taxes gets you down to 6, another percent or 1.5% for buying some term insurance so you have the same value as this thing, you're down to 5, which is underperforming what these policies are doing. So think of it as 8% in a savings account. And then when somebody says, hey, I'm in this syndication that's doing 8%, man, that's an incredible growth. I really feel good because I'm outpacing or keeping up with inflation. you should get into it too. You're like, nah, I'm already doing that. I'm doing the same thing. But mine is safe, liquid, and guaranteed to be there. And so my money, personally, Gary talking here, my money doesn't come out of the safe war bunker there until somebody is offering me substantially more than 8%. If they say, hey, I'll give you 10% to lend me your money, I'm like, nah, it's not really worth it. 2% spread, not worth it for me to put this money at risk. I'm never seeing it again. If we're making 14, 15%, they give me, deed to the property that I'm funding. So in case they don't come through, I can sell it for more than my money is in there. Yeah, maybe that's worth doing. But you have to set a threshold that in your life, if you're healthy enough to do this, or you have a family member who can put one of these family banking policies in place, then you need to set your threshold for 8% to put your money at risk. Okay, a little bit of an aside there. But my point to this was that it gives people the confidence once they see this play out over time, gives them the confidence to say, yeah, I'll store some money in that great environment. Everybody who has money in CDs at 4% right now or fixed annuities at 4 or 4.5% should have a life insurance policy that's doing like 8% equivalent to that. And just keep it there for the rest of your life. Can you borrow against it? Of course. That's exactly why we set these things up. First and foremost, it's your emergency fund and reserves for your businesses and properties. And once you're above that threshold, go at it. Go use it for the next investment. Absolutely. That is its point. In the submarine and nuclear power world, we have this analogy we talk about multiple problems lining up together in series to cause a problem or to cause a big disaster. And my point is that we have redundancy, right? So just imagine like you have a cable or a wire that's plugged into the wall, into the power light socket, right, or into the power source, and then it comes across, and then there's one of those big old knife switches that you have to close, like you see it in the old westerns when they close the switch to light off detonate the TNT or something. And so if you close that knife switch, it connects the circuit and it goes past that to the next one. And then there's another one you got to close, and then another one you got to close. So there's like 3 of these things in line. Then the light bulb comes on. All right. So now we have power, we have cash flowing, we have our business doing great. But then, if those 3 of these switches get closed at the same time, we're in trouble. That causes the explosion, the TNT, to blow up our business. So how do we keep our business going? Well, that's the battery source that's over there on the side that's going to help keep things going. And that battery resource turns on when you don't have normal cash flow for the business, and it feeds the business. And that's your emergency fund. And a lot of people won't retain emergency fund, to go back and visit what we just talked about, because they're thinking cash is trash. I can't have it on the sideline. I need to get involved. I have fear of missing out in the markets. My buddies keep telling me about how they're making 8, 9, 10, 12%, and I need to get involved. Your business is making you a ton more than that. So keep money in reserves. Have the confidence in yourself and your business to be that racehorse that can win the Kentucky Derby, because it's proven it to you. It's already won the Preakness or some other race, right? You've seen it. You've got the taste of that. Don't get distracted. Focus on the business, the properties, yourself, maybe improving your own skills, getting a coach, whatever, but focus on the racehorse and understand and have confidence that your money is growing at a rate when it's sitting in that foundational family banking system. It is growing at a rate that you can't duplicate out in the real world unless you put it at risk of loss. And there's a time to put money at risk of loss beyond your businesses and properties, meaning in the markets, but only do that if you're getting a match from somebody else, or you have completely filled up tiers 1 and 2, and now you're just playing, right? You're having a good time. You're at the casino. You're going to dump some money because somebody said this is a really good slot machine or craps table, or man got a heavy hand or got a hot hand here at the poker table. Whatever it is, you can put some of it at high risk of loss by participating in a red hot market that's hitting new highs under President Trump and all the changes that are being made out there. Sure, go for it. America's hot right now, but only do so if you've got tiers 1 and 2 completely solidly filled out. So if you need help with that or you have any questions on that, please don't hesitate. Reach out to me. Remember, return on wealth, right? So return on wealth, I'm not sure I closed the loop on that, so let me do that clearly here at the end. So let's say that you have $1,000 and you're going to put it into Bitcoin, Nvidia, or some other alternate crypto back when you had perfect timing, right before it grew, and all of a sudden it turns into $5,000, 1,000 into 5. That's a 500% return. And most people will calculate that all day long. We love to get up and calculate how our one small investment is doing, but we don't back up and look at it and say, okay, let's imagine we had $1 million net worth and we did that play money kind of with that $1,000, turned it into 5. So it's a $4,000 growth. Well, $4,000 on that 1,000 is incredible and fun to calculate. But $4,000 growth on your entire net worth is 0.4%. It's less than 1%. And so you need to focus on the macro, like focus on the big picture, your entire portfolio, and how is it doing. If you have a bunch of money sitting somewhere where it's not doing any good, you have a bunch of money sitting physically in cash in a sock drawer or in a safe, or it's in a checking account, there's a lot more efficient ways to do that. And so yes, it's fun to calculate that one small little sliver that did really good, but be honest with yourself, maintain big picture, look at the entire portfolio. Do your return on that and then figure out where are the dogs in here and how do I get them moving faster. Every day I work with my clients multiple times a year to help them be as efficient as possible through tools like the family banking policy, Current's high yield savings structure, and most importantly, actively moving that money frequently to its best position, best place to achieve, but scaled based on risk. Yeah, you can exceed hundreds of thousands of percent, but you can also lose everything by simply running the lottery. So let's focus on your entire net worth first. Make sure there's adequate reserves stored in a place where it's more than keeping up with inflation, gets rid of the FOMO, and allows you to focus on your business, your racehorse, while not being so wild and worried about the money you have sitting on the sideline. You can leave it there, you can allow it to keep the racehorse going, and you can be calm. Like, don't worry about the fact that you missed out on the small little NVIDIA investment. People are not going to put large amounts of their net worth, I hope, in places where they have no control over whether they get it back or not. So, okay, is cash trash? Nope. Not if you have a racehorse and you need to make sure that in bad times you can still support the racehorse and keep it moving forward. So in summary, I just want to go over the title again. Liquidity is your superpower. It's your superpower. Feed the racehorse. Don't focus on the shiny objects that are distracting other people and their companies. Get ahead, turn around, help them to pay it forward even further. But focus on your company first and keep food for the racehorse. Thanks so much. Until next time, go make something amazing happen. In Gary's Gulch.